Welcome everybody, my name is Richard, and as you know, especially if you regularly watch this channel, I'm all about promoting electric cars. I'm a petrol head, but I think they're great. They're fast, I love the technology, they're super cheap to run, less maintenance, and you just conveniently plug them in overnight. I mean, 10,000 miles worth of driving in that car on overnight, cheap electricity at home or the solar panels here is going to cost me under £200 in fuel. But I've got a confession to make. I am a sinner. And you may have spotted in the background of some videos before, I do also own a Land Rover Discovery, the enemy. Well, I don't do many miles in this car, nearly all my driving is an electric, of course, but I do own Discovery. I've had a number of these over the years, and they're one of my favourite ever vehicles. I think they're fantastic. Not very good for the environment, I do admit that. I only use this when I need to, but it's brilliantly practical. One of the primary reasons I have a Land Rover Discovery is because of towing. I do quite frequently tow heavy trailer loads, but it's also wonderfully practical. It's got 7 seats, you can fit 7 adults in, and the boot is massive. Now, we've done some house renovations. I love the practicality in the back of this. You can put tables in it upright, you can put pushchairs in it upright, go to the dump run in it, and of course carry 7 people. It's just so practical that I do find myself using it fairly regularly, although as little as possible. I've always said if this could be electric, it would be absolutely brilliant. There are some towing issues doing long distances with electric because of the limited range when they're towing heavy loads, but nonetheless, an electric version of this would be wonderful. I'm waiting for the day. But what's the closest on the market when you're looking at electric cars? Well, there is now the Kia EV9. Now, I've had one of those this morning. I've driven it really for the first time, and that's a very good and very large 7-seater electric SUV that can also tow, not quite as much, but can tow 2.5 tons, big battery as well. So I'm going to let you know some thoughts on that and some practical comparisons. I want to see really if it's practical enough to steer me out of this when it comes to load capacity. But also in my warehouse here, I happen to have a Tesla Model X. Now, the trouble with the Tesla Model X is not available in right-hand drive in the UK anymore, only left-hand drive. I don't think it's quite as practical either, but it can have 7 seats and it can tow over 2 tons. Now, if you don't need 7 seats, there's also the BMW iX. I've got one of those inside. So again, let's see how the boot space compares to another large SUV, and are any of them going to tempt me to get rid of this Discovery? We'll find out. Okay, I've only got a very short amount of time with this EV9 this morning, but I have taken it for a drive, and I can't show you much of the inside because it's somebody's car. They've been kind enough to just let me do some filming with it. We've just done a PPF covering on this satin paint to make sure it's protected and looked after, but there's plenty of videos online of the inside of the EV9, so you'll see lots more. I'm sure you've probably all seen them now if you're interested in this vehicle. But what was quite useful here is to see these 2 cars side by side. So the Discovery is height adjustable air suspension, the EV9 isn't. It's just got standard springs and dampers. Very nice ride quality, I have to say. But as this sits in its medium height, they're actually very similar. This is a big car, but this is equally as big. That's a pretty similar height, although you do sit a little bit higher in the Discovery. It's a distinctive looking car. Look, I think it's reminded me, especially if it's in black, of like a Cadillac Escalade. We don't get them in this country, but if you saw like 3 of these pull up in black really fast, it'd be like an FBI scene, wouldn't it? Or was that just me watching too many films? Maybe, I don't know. But these distinctive lights at the front with these pixels there, these flaps at the front are active. It's a big slab-fronted car, but there is a camera at the front. You come around to the side, you've got these very distinctive alloy wheels. They're big tyres on this. What are they? 285, 45, R21, so 21-inch wheels. But like I say, it does ride nicely, even without air suspension. It's not as wafty as maybe a Discovery, or certainly not a Range Rover, but it's a comfortable car to be in. But look, it's a big car, it's long, you've got roof rails, you've got pop-out door handles, these back doors are massive. This back window goes all the way down, it's got blinds inside, and it's this length. And then you've got, in this car, a 6-seater, 2 seats at the front, 2 in the middle, and then 2 that can be folded out in the boot. It's quite reasonable, there's a good visibility at the front. I can seal the bonnet, much like the Land Rover. The materials feel premium, it feels durable, but it also, you know, there are some firmer plastics, but that's part of the durability. You know, if you're wearing wellies and you're getting in and out of this, you don't feel like you're going to tear some leather or scuff the plastic too much. So it's durable, feels hard wearing, but luxury enough, if that makes sense. Now, this is a seat in my driving position, really very comfortable with a nice soft headrest. I'm just going to try this back seat for my size. I'm 6 foot tall. And in the second row, there's tons of space. I can have this much legroom, and my feet do go underneath the seat in front, but I can also adjust the height of the backrest here. Now there's a dog cage attached to the back of this one, so I can't move it too much, but I'll show you can also move this forward as well. So this is how I can go quite a long way forward and give more space to the third row. So yes, plenty of space, and you can get the swivel seats here, but this is good and spacious as a six-seater. I've got okay headroom, not like the Land Rover, and you don't sit like a level up like you do in the Land Rover, but with another section of glass roof, window, blinds, USB ports. It's handy to have, and it's just a practical space. So yeah, if you've got kids, grown-ups, adults, doesn't matter, loads of room in this. The Kia is long and it has a nice big flat rear end here, so a bit like the Land Rover Discovery, that helps with practicality, so you can get big square things inside. But this is where the difference comes. It's the height here, so plenty of length in the boot area. Again, I can't show you in too much because I've got a dog mat in here and I can't show you the third seats, but I've got two Ikea packing boxes. These are the slightly larger version of the Ikea packing boxes, if you're familiar with them, and I cannot get one on top of the other there. In fact, I can possibly just about wedge one sideways, one like that. And that's going to be the big difference with the Land Rover. I'll show you that in a second. What I can do though is if I put them lengthways in the boot area with those seats upright, and they're quite a long way back, I could actually move those seats forward and get these two boxes lengthways in here. Shall I try that? Just a second. Could I sit there? Not really. Okay, so we've been messing around with these boxes for a little while now, working out how many of these Ikea boxes we can get into each car. So with the EV9 and the seats backwards, so you've got legroom in the middle row, you can get 1, 2, 3 across, 4, 5 at the top, just by squeezing these sideways, and then you could get 6 and 7, literally that. If you move the middle row all the way forwards, you can get a length of 2 of these in, but then there's just a little bit of legroom for the middle row. You can still get somebody in there, to be fair, you'd manage, but then you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but because of the slight slope here, we think you just about get a number 9 in there. Now, let me show you something with the Discovery. So the Discovery doesn't have sliding middle row seats, so they're just upright at the moment in their normal position. But 1, 2, 3, easily across there. So pretty similar width in the boot actually, but it's this height. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because it's dead vertical, and then you'll just get a 9th one in here. So the Discovery takes 9 boxes with the seats upright, with plenty of legroom for the rear passengers. The Kia can match that, but with the middle row slid all the way forwards. If you had the middle row backwards, that was at 7. So that is the practical advantages of the Discovery. It's this sheer height and the squareness at the back of it. But let me tell you how that comes into real world practical advantages, and the reason we have it is, well look, we like to buy the odd bit of antique furniture for a house. The other day I put a massive desk in here, so basically a full height table in here, and the height of that fitted. We also picked up an under-counter freezer recently, and that went in the boot of this car, upright, so you could get a washing machine just in here, upright, no problem at all. So when you fold these seats, it is completely flat, and you can get even more boxes in, of course. I can't fold the seats on the EV9 today because there's a dog cage and the customer's effects in there, so I'm not going to mess around with the car too much. But again, you're going to have a similar length, it's just a difference in the height of the load area. And then there's these two, the BMW iX, a big SUV, but it's a 5-seater. I'll come on to the inside of that in a minute. And then of course the Tesla Model X, which has been with us a few years now, first came in the country in 2016. A later model car like this, which is a mid or late 2019 onwards, really lasts for the right-hand drive until they finish in 2020. We tend to refer to it as the Raven one, and it also has adaptive dampers as well as the air suspension that was standard, so they're a bit more comfortable, but they're more efficient than the earlier cars. And a big battery, long range like this, dual motor, can do, if you're really careful, 300 miles, more realistically, more about 250 miles. But quite good efficiency, 7 seats, and on this age they came with a tow bar standard. Earlier cars, you've got to bear in mind, you had to have a factory order tow bar really. So let's have a quick look inside this, and we're going to get into the practicality side of it mostly. But before I do that, let's have a look at the front space, because that's particularly big on this car. Well, there is a small frunk on the EV9, but it's not really much to shout about. But this is 1.2 meters wide there, at the widest point, coming down to kind of like 70 centimeters there, and quite deep at at least about 27, 28. So you can actually get a set of golf clubs just in the front of this alone. Take a guess now how many boxes you think this is going to get in the back of the car. Those same boxes with allowance for having the rear seats up. So you've got rear passengers as well as the front. Place your bets now how many boxes will fit in the back of that. But before we get on to that, the Model X here is still a very nice, comfortable place to be. Nice, comfortable car to drive. Feels very big, it's wide. You sit high up. You can't see the bonnet like you can on all the other cars because it slopes away. It's a much more aerodynamic shape, and therefore it will be probably the most efficient out of all of these. And the key with the Tesla is, again, software. Great, easy to use, large screens. One there, of course you get two screens in the X and the S, unlike the 3 and the Y. And then a massive screen in the middle, and the navigation, the software, the use of it is so easy, it's so good. It's easy to get a comfortable driving position. Now, it doesn't have as much of a luxury feel because it's more minimal, but I think actually, you know, it's nice. I like the minimal feel to it, and I can get a nice, good, comfortable driving position sitting quite high up like the others, and you feel like you've got plenty of space in here. So with this seat in my position, let's see what the space is like in the back. Now, of course, we've got the Falcon wing doors on the Model X. Now, if you've got a very low garage ceiling, then maybe this is slightly inconvenient. But actually, the good thing about these is you can have another car parked really close where you're shuffling along like this, and you can still have wide access to the car and maybe your child in the seat here. The seats here do slide backwards and forwards a little bit, like that. But you can have a very tight parking space and still put your baby in the car seat. That's the advantage of these Falcon wing doors. They don't need much space at the side at all to open. But the space in the back, well, let's have a look. Now here, with the seat right back, I've got plenty of knee room. I can get my feet under the seat in front, and it's easy for 3 people to sit in the back of this car, no problem. I can shuffle this seat forward a bit. Let's have a little feel down there, like that. And then I can actually adjust the backrest a little bit as well, so sort of recline and sit up with a lever there. But even with the seat forward and my seat there, I've got quite a good space here. It's not too bad at all. And what do we think for the number of boxes in the back? Well, let me show you. Now, the problem with the Model X is aerodynamics, so it's quite slopely. Is that a word, slopely? I don't know. But I've put some boxes in here. The maximum number of boxes I could fit in with the seats up. And it doesn't matter on this car whether the seats in the middle row are forwards or backwards. The total number is 4. And compare that to the Discovery at 9 and the Kia at 7, maybe 9 at a push with the seats right forward, but it's 4. We've got the same kind of width, just about. You see this box here is a little bit squashed getting 3 across, but it just doesn't have the height to even put one like that. So it is 4 boxes and that's it. You might be able to do a little bit more because you do have a really good large storage space under here, but actually I was finding that I couldn't really get a box here, or could I? Oh, I might get one there, another one. Could it potentially be a 5? Well, you can see the space in this car just isn't as big as the others, partly because it's just not as tall and it's more aerodynamic and more shapely and not as square at the back. But there is quite a lot of usable space with the front taken into account as well. So it's not bad. It is a big car. Can have a tow bar. Towing capacity is over 2 tons. I think it's 2.2, possibly up to 2.5 tons. And they're very good at it. But again, it has an impact on range significantly. You've got to remember, electric cars are very good at towing the torque. You know, if you're just taking a horse box down a road or pulling a boat up a slip road, they're very good. They've got all the torque and all the power, no clutches, no gearbox. But if you're doing long distances, that's the challenge. So the BMW iX, I mean, the looks alone, I think really like the other electric SUVs here today will divide opinion. But these are getting cheaper now. Now this particular one has got the massive 111 kilowatt hour battery. It is good for range. It's a lovely car to drive. We've got air suspension. It's very comfortable. It's actually got 4-wheel steering on this car as well. It is probably the nicest driver's car. It's got a subtle suspension, but it handles really nicely. The EV9 isn't bad at all, and the Tesla Model X still turns a good hand as well. All of them far more agile than Land Rover Discovery. The Land Rover Discovery is much more like piloting a big boat. You go into the corner, it leans, and yeah, it's not exactly a handling car. It's actually all these electric cars handle nicely. They're quite level and really do drive very well. So the inside of the iX is also rather different, to be honest. You've got this large, wide, colourful screen here. You do sit nice and high up, and again, you've got nice visibility. I can see most of the bonnet from here. Some excellent headlights in this car, as we'll add. And this one probably has the best sound system of them all. This has got a Harman Kardon system, same as the Land Rover, but this is really, really good in this car. You've got this very different kind of textures. You can have crystals on here. It is quite unique, isn't it? But what you do get is big, wide, comfy seats, and the materials are all rather nice. It's slightly more plasticky in certain places, and this has got like a material on it here, but it's probably like the most luxury feeling of them all here. And like I say, very nice to drive indeed. Good interaction with Apple CarPlay. You do have to get used to the menu systems like you do on all of these really, but the Tesla's the most intuitive. A comfortable place to be, it has to be said. I don't like the way that it has a button for the door release, but you still have to kind of shove your, I've exaggerated a bit there, but you kind of have to shove it with your elbow to open the door. But the BMW, I think, does take it for the driving experience. It's a lovely, smooth, refined car, of course, plenty of power, huge battery, lots of range, very comfortable to be. But again, I want to mainly focus on the practical side of things with this video here. So I'm going to put this into my kind of comfortable driving position here, and we'll check for the space in the rear. Right, that's about that. So the back of the BMW is comfortable, very comfortable indeed. So it's only a 5-seater, this car, but we've again got these nice kind of squishy seats. Although what I do find in the back of the it's a bit weird, is you've got this lower panel on the backrest here with some Isofix in it. I can kind of feel that lower ridge on my back, so that's a little bit odd at first impressions. I've got some separate climate controls. The seat in front of me does seem quite big and obtrusive, but it's comfortable. I've got loads of leg room, loads of knee room, although if you put your feet back like that, your knees are kind of quite high up compared to the seat, but you do have the room to really stretch out in the back here. So flat floor, loads of space, even for 3 people in the back, although it's a bit more of a raised centre seat rather than 3 individual seats like the others, if you have the 7-seat EV9. But a comfortable place to be, a little bit darker in here, but there's some nice ambient lighting around, and you've got USB ports and all that stuff, so it's okay. But does that leave plenty of boot space, because it is only a 5-seater? And I quite like these. Look, as you can see here, it's got this sort of semi-carbon fibre chassis monocoque thing going on. Okay, how many boxes can we fit in the back here? Let's find out. So we've got this load cover here to remove first, really, so let's just pop that out the way for a moment, and let me get some boxes. There's a little bit of storage under the floor here, just enough for a couple of cables really. This one's got a matting, and you've got a practical large boot space, but how many of these boxes does it fit in? Did you place your bets? Well, there's 1, 2 and 3, just about, and that's your lot. That's it. There isn't enough length to get anything else in front here, and it's not tall enough there, and in fact the slope at the back is only just closing on these bits here. So the Tesla, the Land Rover, and I think so far the EV9 only come with kind of manual detachable tow bars, but the BMW iX does have a fully electric deployable tow bar. So it's nice, it means you can tuck it out the way without getting your hands greasy, crawling on the floor, and then so you don't bang your shins on it. I think the electric deployable is coming on the Kia EV9, but I don't think it's been available yet. Do correct me if I'm wrong, put that in the comments below. But having this, that's a good little party trick, and this can tow 2,500 kilograms, so it can pull a good weight, and it's got a big battery, so you should still get a reasonable range out of towing even quite a heavy load. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up for this video. It's a bit of a quick run through, and I think because there's plenty of videos about the Kia EV9 and what it's like inside and to drive, I didn't want to just repeat most of that as a review. I've wanted to make the most of the opportunity I had with the short time I had to look at the practical side of things and how it compares to these other cars. And I think the case is proven that it's, in terms of its size and practicality and what you can get in the back of it, it's as close to a Land Rover Discovery as you can get at the moment, unless you go to an EV that's sort of more like van based, like a VW ID.Buzz or a Mercedes EQS, but then they do feel like you're driving a van. So the Kia EV9 is a very practical car. It drives really nicely, it's smooth, quiet. It's not particularly cheap at £79,000 for the big all-wheel drive 7-seat version. But again, if you're buying one of these cars, you can buy it through a company and save basically 25% of that with your corporation tax offset. You will have to pay some when you sell it, but I'm not going to get into that now, but there's some big tax benefits. Now, if you compare that to the iX here, this one with a big battery and plenty of options is a very expensive car. This is about £120,000 new, much cheaper on the market today, under £60,000, I'll add. Again, depreciation on premium electric cars, I've discussed that before, I won't go into that now. This one feels the most luxurious, I guess. It is probably my favourite one to drive. The Tesla Model X, it's a shame it's not available in right-hand drive. It still offers a lot, still has the best software, I would say, the best app. The charging network of Tesla is fantastic, and it's a bit more of an aerodynamic car, so you can go further and get better efficiency from it. It still has a lot to offer, the Tesla Model X. But now on the used market, look, you can get some for 25,000. Later cars like this with 7 seats, just more like over 40,000, and sort of late right-hand drive cars, low mileage, can be even up to £60,000. But very good cars still. Do they tempt me out of having the Discovery, at least as a second car, and just have one car? Well, it doesn't really, because they don't quite all offer the same level of practicality, and they don't offer the long distance towing capabilities that is useful, or the sheer weight of towing that the Discovery does for me. But for most people, get rid of the Discovery, have one of these very practical electric SUVs instead. They are all very spacious, practical cars. And I think we've proven there with the Kia EV9, it is as close to a Discovery as you can get in terms of its sheer practicality and size. So I'll wrap it up for this video. Bit of a brief run through. Didn't have much time with the EV9, but thanks to the owner for letting me have a poke around it and a drive of it this morning. So much appreciated. Thank you all for watching, and I shall see you hopefully on another video very soon. But make sure you're subscribed to our channel. A lot of viewers are not, so hit subscribe and you'll see more videos like this coming soon.